You know, the U.S.-Mexico border holds the grim title of being the deadliest land migration route worldwide, as reported by the UN Migration Agency. According to a recent study by the International Organization for Migration, IOM, hundreds of individuals perish each year while attempting to reach the United States through the perilous desert terrain. Their data reveals a staggering 1,457 recorded migrant deaths and disappearances across the Americas in 2022, with 686 of those occurring solely within the U.S.-Mexico border region, spanning a total length of approximately 1,954 miles. This border traverses diverse terrains, from bustling cities to daunting deserts. Embarking on this journey is anything but easy. Many migrants find themselves forced to fork over exorbitant sums, often tens of thousands of dollars, to cartels or coyotes just to navigate their illegal crossing. And even then, success is far from guaranteed. Picture this: trekking through scorching deserts, wading through rivers, and walking hundreds of miles, all while evading the watchful eyes of authorities. It's no wonder that the odds are stacked against them, with a staggering 55 to 85% of illegal crossers being nabbed by the vigilant U.S. Border Patrol. But still, for them, this is a risk worth taking. So what is actually going on with this border? What has attracted millions of people from Central and South America to flock to the United States illegally? And the main question is, why should it be illegal? And discover why the United States border is unlikely to ever be secure. Undoubtedly, the U.S.-Mexico border holds immense economic significance for both nations, as they are deeply interdependent. However, for many individuals, particularly those from the southern regions, the United States symbolizes a land of opportunity, a place where they aspire to secure a better future for themselves and their families. You know, in 2023, Venezuelans have overtaken Mexicans as the largest nationality arrested for illegally crossing the U.S.-Mexico border. It's a startling shift, and it begs the question, what's driving this surge? Well, Venezuela is in the grip of a dire crisis marked by hyperinflation, crippling food shortages, and rampant political instability. It's a perfect storm that's pushing millions of Venezuelans to flee their homeland in search of a better life elsewhere. This is quite clear from the gap in average income. By 2023, residents of the United States are expected to earn around $60,000 annually on average, whereas in Mexico, considered relatively advanced for Central and South America, the average annual income will only amount to $17,000, or Venezuela average income, which is in the range of only $1,800. Under the Biden administration, more than 6.3 million migrants have been detained while crossing into the U.S., surpassing the numbers seen during the Trump, Obama, or George W. Bush administrations. The reasons behind this surge are multifaceted, extending beyond the current administration's control and predating its tenure. Various factors driving this trend, which began to escalate in 2018, primarily fueled by Central Americans fleeing complex crises encompassing gang violence, extortion, persecution, poverty, and food insecurity, continue to force hundreds of thousands of people from El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras to flee their homes in search of safety. Detention rates experienced a temporary decline in the summer of 2019, attributed to heightened enforcement efforts by Mexico and Guatemala. The most significant reduction occurred in early 2020, with pandemic-related restrictions leading to a drastic 53% drop in detentions between March and April of that year. However, since the relaxation of these measures in early 2021, the numbers have steadily climbed, culminating in an all-time high of over 302,000 detentions in December 2023. Alright, now that we've got a clearer picture of why folks are flocking to cross the US border, now let's dive into the big question. Why do they do it illegally? I mean, isn't that way riskier and, well, illegal? You're spot on there, my friends. It's definitely not a walk in the park. But here's the deal. They're doing it illegally because, frankly, they don't have a choice. Getting into the US legally? Let's just say, it's not exactly a cakewalk. Now, immigration restrictions have been around since the 1920s, and the current system? It's a real headache for low-skilled workers trying to make their way in. The whole process can drag on for years, and the price tag? It's steep. We're talking about shelling out $1,760 for a green card if you're already in the US, or $1,200 if you're applying from outside the country. And that's not even counting the cost of a medical exam. Now you might be thinking, hey, isn't it better to just pay the legal fees rather than risking your life and forking over big bucks to coyotes? Well, the thing is, not everyone who crosses illegally shells out to those coyotes. And those who do, well, they're often folks who can't even get a regular visa. Not even a tourist one. Yep, you heard me right. The US doesn't just hand out visas like candy. They're pretty picky about who gets in, and they're not afraid to turn folks away. Plus, if they catch a whiff that you might stick around longer than you're supposed to, or that you don't have much cash to your name, well, your chances are slim to none, especially if you're from a country dealing with crisis and conflict. And let's face it, that's a lot of places these days. So, what about those seeking asylum? Could it actually happen, right? Yep, seeking asylum is totally legal. But let me tell you, the asylum process, it's no walk in the park. So, here's the deal. When someone seeks asylum in the US, they're basically asking for protection because they fear persecution back home. Sounds straightforward, right? Wrong. It's a long and complicated journey that involves juggling multiple federal agencies like the Department of State, the Department of Health and Human Services, and DHS. And let's not forget about navigating the US justice system if their case ends up in immigration court. Now, to actually get granted asylum, they have to prove they meet the definition of a refugee, and that they have a well-founded fear of persecution. Easier said than done, my friends. We're talking about a process that's stacked against them, with a whopping 1.3 million asylum applications sitting in limbo as of May 2023. And get this, it takes an average of 4.25 years to get through it all. Not to mention the fact that half of these asylum seekers will fail to obtain refugee status. And for those seeking asylum, there is no way for them to request a visa or permission first. No, they just need to show up on American soil or a US port of entry and hope for the best. So, it is not surprising why some people choose to cross illegally first and then seek asylum, especially for those fleeing conflict-torn countries. This is a gamble they are willing to take to find safety. This border problem seems to be causing enough headaches for the US government to label it crisis. Picture this. The US has a whopping 21,000 border patrol officers, more than any other country out there. And get this, they're not shy about spending billions of dollars to keep that border with Mexico in check. In fact, in fiscal year 2023 alone, they threw around a mind-blowing $26.6 billion at border security efforts. That's a hefty chunk of change, my friends. And it covers everything from customs and border protection to immigration and customs enforcement and US citizenship and immigration services. But why the crisis label, and why the need to splash out so much cash? Well, because it's not just about illegal immigrants crossing the border. Nope. We're talking about a whole other can of worms here: drugs and weapons. Ever heard of the big bad Mexican cartels, like the Sinaloa cartel or the Gulf cartel? These guys are pros at smuggling drugs into the good old US of A. And let me tell you, they've got some seriously sneaky tricks up their sleeves. We're talking about high-tech tunnels equipped with ventilation, rails, and lighting stretching for kilometers underground. They'll even hide their stash in everyday items like tires, or use human couriers to get the job done. It's a real headache for border security folks. And as long as the US remains the largest market for illegal drugs, these cartels aren't going anywhere. So maybe, just maybe, the key to tackling this border crisis starts with addressing the demand for these illicit substances right here at home. After all, no consumers means no business for the cartels, right? And now, it's time to sound off in the comments section. Do you agree with my take on tackling this border crisis from the home front? Or do you have a different perspective? I want to hear your thoughts. And hey, don't forget to show your support by hitting that like button and subscribing to our channel. And spread the word by sharing this video with everyone you know. Until next time, peace out.